Welcome again to another Saturday episode on Heart Doha Podcast. We're broadcasting to you from Doha, Qatar, our beloved city. We got a special guest kicking off after Eid. This is our first episode in our new studio. You gotta love it. Come on, look at all
It's
these
amazing.
amazing lights, right? They're
Yeah.
everywhere. I hope you guys had an amazing Eid. You and your family, wishing you many blessings and so much more from me and the team. Our guest today is Polly.
Hi.
How are you, Polly?
I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited.
Thank you for coming and bringing a lot of sunshine to our show, right? I love the actual
Always.
nickname. It's very positive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember when Chad told me, we have Polly here, Miss Sunshine. I was like, you know what? Stop. I want to know more about this sunshine idea. Because for the previous times, I were promoting the idea of positive energy and how to stay positive and stuff like that. So can you tell me a bit about your work, especially the blogging
Sure.
scene?
Yeah, of course. So, Follow Your Sunshine is my lifestyle blog, and it's basically based on the premise that everyone can live the best lives they possibly can, and it's very simple. So, I document our family life. I talk about eating great food, going on great holidays, living kind of positive family values. It's quite broad. But I started the blog before I came out to Doha, and it was a very daunting time. My husband, who was my then boyfriend at the time, had moved out, and he was trying to convince me to come and move out here and find a job myself, and I was really nervous. I hadn't really heard much about Doha, as lots of people haven't before they come out here.
Yeah, at the beginning, you're like, where is
You're like, where is it? I couldn't find it on a map. And I remember sitting in my little attic kitchen in London and thinking like, okay,
making a life decision.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for this really big life move, but I want to make it a positive life move. And so I started my blog. I talked about the new things that I was looking forward to in Doha, and once I moved out, I talked about the new exciting adventures we were going on and the restaurants we were finding, and I turned what could have been a really negative experience and sadness of leaving my family and friends and my great job in London behind into something that was positive, and I've kind of continued that for the last 4.5 years since I started it.
So that's some sort of a method that every change in your life, you try to look at the positive side of it.
Yeah,
and try to maintain it, continue, right? We try.
We all try, I think.
try.
It's hard. But
You know what I thought about at the beginning of like the show, and I was like, oh, we're moving from another place to another place. But then I was actually looking at the positive side of it. You know, you start off in a new place, new kind of scenery, new photography. So it felt like also a change for me, especially as humans. We go through constant change all the time. But not all of us can deal with it in a very, positive form. You know what I mean?
I think it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of kind of willingness to change your mindset and to adapt with your surroundings.
Yeah.
So, coming from the UK with the very kind of liberal background and being able to, you're basically seen as you can do whatever you want, to quite a strict Muslim country, which, when I first moved out here, I didn't know all of what that entailed.
Yeah. First time in the Middle East.
First time in the Middle East,
In general,
it was actually my first time ever visiting the Middle East, and I was moving out there.
Did you know a bit about it? Or
I did. Well, I did geography at university, so I knew a little bit about what these countries were about, but not too much, and it was a lot of kind of learning on the spot. And I think the really important thing when you're going through big life changes like this is embracing the change, embrace it and learning more about it, kind of being adaptable and saying like, I'm really going to take this on and make the most out of every single challenge or every single difference from my previous life. And if you kind of go with an open heart and an open mind, it's always a lot easier.
Yeah. You know what? A lot of people, we were having a conversation a couple of days ago about moving outside, starting a new page. And then the idea of moving out actually scares a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
You're like starting from scratch. You know what I mean? So when you first said that you started your blog and like before you moved out here, was there a motive behind it? Like why did you actually start that?
Well, it was mainly just to keep in touch with family and friends, and also to document my journey for kind of my own sake as well, so that I'd have something to look back on in years to come. I never thought that it would gain a following over and above my family, and I didn't realise that it would open up as many opportunities as it has.
Yeah.
So that was just like a nice added bonus, which kind of took me aback a bit when it started happening.
Oh, wow. I never thought that people would actually focus more on blogging here in Qatar, because Qatar started off a bit small, So when Shad told me about you and your blogging scene, and actually you have a website. You know what I mean? Like a lot of bloggers don't actually have websites, which doesn't make sense to me sometimes.
Of course.
Did you always have this website? Did you launch it at the beginning?
Yeah, so I started the website before any of my social media channels. So that was my real passion, was the writing and
I love the design, by the way. It's very energetic, you know, like the colors, the little yellow and the white.
It's taken a while for me to get there. Yeah. I actually did my first website design myself, which was a really bad decision, and it looked awful. So it's got a lot more user friendly, and I've used a lot of
splash colors everywhere.
Yeah,
red. You know, the more the better.
It was a bit like that. Yeah. But yeah, I actually, for the latest website update, I employed a web designer to help me, and I kind of directed them with a few of the things that I wanted, and they made it look very pretty and did things that I never would have been able to do myself.
So are you a full-time blogger though? Or?
So I kind of have two roles. I blog, and I also am a freelance travel writer. So I am Qatar's Lonely Planet writer. So
you travel for a living, basically.
Well, I'd love to say that I'm travelling all over for a living, but actually most of the travel content I'm writing at the moment is for clients in Qatar. So basically writing Qatar travel pieces. I've written a bit for Visit Qatar. But Lonely Planet is taking up quite a lot of my time at the moment. I'm doing all of their website updates, and I'm also writing kind of one-off articles on various things, like how to have an adventure outdoors in Qatar and what the best brunches are and things like that. So that's been a really great experience. I love working for Lonely Planet. They're just such an amazing publication, and it's really great that they're finally updating all of their Qatar content, because before I came on the scene, a lot of their stuff dated back to like 2002 and stuff, so it was really outdated. So I'm enjoying that challenge.
That's actually like a very full-time. You must be busy, and you're a mom too, you know. I mean, how do you keep up with that?
A lot of kind of prioritizing. So I think everyone that I work with, all of the clients I work with, know that being a mum comes first these days. And so I've actually chosen clients specifically based around that are willing to be flexible on deadlines and timings and stuff. And, you know, they've been really accommodating, particularly as over the last few months I've had a few life traumas. That's one way to put it, and it's been quite difficult. So they've been very flexible in helping me to kind of push deadlines back and things. And that's the great thing about working for yourself.
You're like the boss of your own self. Nobody got to tell me when to wake up.
Exactly.
You know, start documenting it in minutes. I'm telling you, we need to start doing this more often. Thank you for agreeing on this, guys. You know, where are you, Shaheen? I get all these texts every day. You know what I mean? But can I ask you something? When you started off this blog also, at the beginning, were you targeting a certain kind of people beside family? Because I've noticed that you focus a lot on motherhood, the idea of like, you know, bringing a child to this world. I'm sure that's shifted because you never had a kid at the first, right?
Of course,
and that changed your whole life drastically a bit? Or?
Yeah, completely. Motherhood had completely changed me in every single way possible. Like motherhood...
To the good or to the bad?
Obviously to the good.
Sure?
There were a few bad bits, I'm not going to lie. If you read my blog, you'll know that I didn't get any sleep for the first 2 years.
We don't lie on our Heart Doha, you know. We got to stay frank.
So the complete honesty is that motherhood is very, very difficult. And there are the really hard bits, the days that you wake up and you're like, why did I do this? Like, this is the worst decision ever. But all of the good days completely overrule those bad days. And she just makes me realise that the world is a great place to live. You can have the worst day ever, and then you see my little 2-year-old smiling face, and she tells you she loves me, and I'm like, okay, the world's okay.
I'm sorry, I'm feeling a lot of positive energy. Can we just end it to this? I'm very joy about the loving and family orientation. You know, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I was talking about the idea of how society somehow shift the people's opinions about roles, whether what a man should do and what a woman should do, and it created some sort of confusion that it made it even more complicated for me as a young man growing up to start a family, because I don't know how to handle it. Like, a lot of women be like, I don't want to start a family, you know, I want to be independent, I want to work on my career. And it's the opposite. A lot of men, they be like, no, I want to actually start a family, I want to do that, you know what I mean? So this confusions of roles actually created some sort of like a really bad connection wall between men and women, you know what I mean? So when I see like a family that actually believes in the idea of having a kid and just settling down in a very, you know what I mean? It's actually became a bit rare. People do it out of a job. Like, okay, start a family, meet a girl, that's it. Get a dog and move on in your life. I'm like, no, don't do it that way. Where's the sparkle in it? You know what I mean? And that's when I saw the blog. I was like, you know what? This is actually some little positive energy about family orientation. You can still do your careers. Right, like having a kid shouldn't just stop you from being who you are.
Absolutely not. And I also think it's really interesting what you say about the blurring of gender roles. Like, my husband is part of the reason why I'm so positive about our family life, because we are a 50-50 partnership. And if you looked at the traditional gender roles of the woman in the kitchen doing the cooking and the husband going out to work, actually that doesn't work like that in our household. He does most of the cooking. He does a lot of the childcare while I'm busy typing away at my laptop, and he's a very hands-on dad. And I think that really has helped me to feel like I'm really enjoying our lives, and that I've got that support that I need. And I kind of like that. I like that change that we've seen in society that's allowed men to feel like they can be that person.
Yeah, like push the little manhood aside. There's nothing wrong with you walking into the kitchen and making a meal,
And it doesn't make you less of a man. If anything, it makes you more of a man and far more attractive to women. So
Really?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know how to cook.
You better learn.
No, everybody here's like, no cooking. I'm actually very aware of the fact that a lot of the idea of cooking and being 50-50 on the house roles, but the majority of men take that personal lately. You know what I mean? Have you ever thought about doing little workshops related to these stuff, or like in your gender roles? Because I've noticed that you focus a lot on motherhood, and sometimes mothers can actually have issues not just with kids, but like husbands and spouses.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Have you ever been encounter any of these kind of misconceptions or ideas?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, the way that I talk about this stuff is usually through my blog. So there's a lot on my blog. If you go through and look at kind of our sleep journey that we've been through, my pregnancy journey that I've documented on the blog, I've kind of talked about all of these issues and this kind of the discrepancies or the issues that couples can have between each other with these issues, and the support that
especially during
that
pregnancy
men should
too.
give you, and that I think there's quite a lot that you can find in there. And actually, I've got a new part of the blog, or a new focus that's coming up on kind of mental health. I'm really starting to kind of focus in on that a lot more, and I think that's something that my readers can kind of look to in the future. There's a lot of that, and it will all be based around.
Can you tell me more about it, the idea of mental health?
Well, so a little bit of background to me and what's happened over the last few months. This is where my journey's kind of stemmed from, is the fact that not that long ago I had a miscarriage. So I was
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was hard.
I've seen it on your website.
Yeah, I was quite open about it with people, which it was kind of a snap decision to be like, I'm going to tell my followers about this, because it's such a common occurrence. 1 in 3 women will have a miscarriage. And it's something that society doesn't talk about, and we need to talk about.
That's like a taboo,
It is a taboo. It really is, and it really made me quite upset. I didn't even realise until it happened to me just how common it was, and how little people were willing to talk about it.
In Oriental society, like a lot of people would say, "Oh, she's pregnant, good news," and everybody would clap and happy. If she had a miscarriage, they'd be like, "She had a miscarriage," so just be quiet. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't even finish the word like miscarriage. You know what I mean? And then you never have to ask questions. Don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Just know she lost the baby.
But actually, a lot of women, it really helps them if they talk about it and they talk through it. And I'm one of those women. I want to kind of share my feelings with people. And so putting my story out there on the internet encouraged a lot of women who'd been through it themselves to then reach out and tell me, oh, look, I went through this and it's all okay. I now have 4 kids and it's not the end of the world. Or to say, I've just been through this recently. Thank you for giving your story, because it actually made me feel less alone. And that's what we need to do a lot more, especially in this topic. And so that got me thinking about all these other things and issues that we go through as a gender, but also as people, that we just don't talk about in everyday life. And I think my blog can be one of the means that we can start to have some of these important conversations. And one thing that I'd really
No
like
filtering,
to do...
just heart to heart, get on it.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
I love these kind of things. They're just direct, really.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of nowadays there's a lot of filtering in topics. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And people also, I think, when they put themselves out there on the internet, feel like they should be painting this ideal life of them. The way
happy, schmappy all the time.
Exactly. Look at these perfectly shot Instagram photographs of my amazing life on these pretty beaches with my perfect family. And actually, life isn't really like that for anyone.
In my nice, flawless Gucci shoes, right?
Exactly. If only I had flawless Gucci shoes,
Yeah,
I'd
I
love
know,
to.
right?
But I think you could, if I just have my Instagram feed up there, you could look at my life and think it was perfect. It is, well, it never used to be, but it is becoming more and more kind of refined and chic. But that's why I use my blog and my Instagram stories to paint the real side of life and to say, look, this is what's really happening.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is help people specifically within Doha to be able to find some of the support that they require, because it's not always completely obvious where people can go to for this kind of support after a miscarriage, after a bereavement, when they're sick. And so a few of my blog posts will be pointing people in the direction of services that they can...
So do you recommend certain locations they can go to, for example, to get more mental support?
Yeah. That's what will be coming up very soon.
That's really amazing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I had a couple of friends who actually been through the experience, and I've noticed that the wives were very depressed. And it's very hard for a man also, because not a lot of men are aware of the idea of miscarriage and how to, support a woman mentally after this incident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the depression increases on both sides because he feels like he's failing at supporting, and she actually feels bad because she doesn't find any support. Especially in our societies, like you said at the beginning, it's a taboo, and this taboo created a lack of knowledge on how to handle the situation. You know what I mean? What's that famous saying before, you got to admit the disease before you look for a cure?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of concept. And we don't.
Yeah.
We know it's there, but we actually ignore it. Can you tell me what are the symptoms of miscarriage?
So the first symptom and the most obvious one is bleeding. So if you start bleeding early on in your pregnancy, then do get yourself over to the emergency room to get checked out. I will emphasise though that if you do bleed, it doesn't necessarily mean you are definitely having a miscarriage. I bled through my first pregnancy and I had a healthy baby. So, but it is worth getting it checked out, and it could save the baby's life and yours.
Yeah.
So get every case of bleeding checked out. Cramps, stomach cramps, and if you're a bit further on in your pregnancy, lack of movement. So if your baby you're feeling regular kicks and suddenly that reduces or stops, then that's another thing you should go and get seen about. You should definitely get checked out.
For example, when it comes to miscarriage, is there a certain period it's more the chances of it happening than throughout the period of pregnancy? Or
so it's far more likely in your first trimester, so in the first 3 months. Once you're through that period, I think it reduces by something ridiculous, like 90% or 95%. Really? Yeah. So once you're through that, you can almost guarantee that you're going to have a healthy baby at the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Do you talk also about nutrition and helping women? Because I've seen a friend, she was pregnant in a couple of days, and I've looked at her. I'm not really aware of nutrition throughout pregnancy. But what she was eating, I felt bad. I was like, is this even healthy? You know what I mean? There's a lack of knowledge when it comes to nutrition.
There is completely. And I think out here especially...
they just shove their face in food.
Yeah, well,
don't do that.
Well, it's a difficult one, because some women are so ill and so sick during their pregnancy that actually being able to eat anything is better than eating nothing. So if they've got a craving and they're eating and they're taking some nourishment down that's going to feed their baby, then that's better than nothing. Some women can't take certain foods at all.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is education on the things that you definitely shouldn't eat while you're pregnant. So certain soft cheeses. Some people say you shouldn't eat raw fish, like sushi, and things like that. And not everyone knows all of these things. And it's not something that when you first go to the doctor when you're pregnant,
even doctors
readily tell you.
I've noticed that even a lot of general doctors actually don't have the proper information of what a woman could eat. You know what I mean? I'm serious.
Oh, well, I think there's the problem out here is that different cultures have different guidelines on this as well. So you might see a doctor from Egypt or a doctor from America, and they might tell you two very different things, and then it adds to the confusion. So it's not like in England where most doctors, they're trained by the NHS and they all are singing from the same hymn sheet. They're kind of bringing all of their different views from the different cultures.
Okay, different school, different ideologies.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like
which one is right or wrong.
One's right or
it's
wrong.
Just different
yeah,
cultures.
It's different. So I think having that pre-knowledge when you go into pregnancy and understanding a little bit more about what it entails really helps.
Yeah. Do you at the beginning you told me you were a writer before you got into like you like to write. That's one of the kickoff for you to start off your blog.
Yeah.
How often do you write and how often do you actually blog? Like, are you on a constant daily kind of like blog?
Well, I was writing pretty much every day up until just before Ramadan. So I was doing my freelance writing work. I was writing for Lonely Planet. I was writing in my blog, blogging probably about once to twice a week on a good week.
Okay.
Because each blog post takes quite a long time. Like no one realizes just how much goes into it. It can, including the editing the photographs, writing the post, making it SEO compliant, making sure that it's going to get seen, then posting it, promoting it, making sure that your readers know that it's up and all of that stuff. It can take 5-6 hours for a good blog post. So that's that's a full day's work. Wow. So I rarely get a chance to blog more than once a week. Actually, it's gone completely on the back burner in the last couple of months, so I haven't really blogged much at all. But I'll get back into that once I kind of get back in the flow of things.
And how's the blogging scene in Doha? Is it different?
It's very different to London. It's a much smaller place, so everyone knows everyone else, which can be a great thing and a terrible thing. So the really good side of that is I've built up a really amazing community of friends through my blogging. It's one of the best things about blogging. I've got some of my best friends out here are fellow bloggers.
Okay. So you hang out with other bloggers?
Hang out with other bloggers. They're cool and they kind of get you as well. If you're like taking 1,000 photos of your food before you tuck in, they understand.
Actually, you know what? Let's admire the fact that every time I hang out, I'm being judged by others because I like to take pictures. So I'm just addressing this to all those that are watching me. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Let him off.
Accept as who I am. But so
he's allowed.
I'm allowed. Then you are too.
You heard it here.
I know, right? It's crazy. But so you were saying, what's the positive side more about it?
So the positive side is this community. It's brilliant. And also the other side of it is because it's such a small community, you get a lot more opportunities out here than you would do otherwise. I'm not the biggest blogger in the world. I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers some. But I've been given some amazing opportunities and I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that, I've been given this platform and I have a really dedicated following out here that I wouldn't necessarily have back home because you just get lost in the big sea of the hundreds of thousands of bloggers that are out there.
Yeah, so, it's like a bigger scene out there and here. I feel like sometimes working on it, like social media here, it's actually very, what's the word, comfy.
Yeah.
That's
a good way to describe it.
Yeah, like it's like cozy. So you got a couple of people that, enjoy what you're producing, what you're doing, and you just stick by them. And somehow your idea of like being active on the internet instead of targeting a bigger space, you actually just want to be around your audience somehow.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but technically lately that's what I've been feeling. I'm like, I love these guys who are watching me. Hey, what's up? You know what I mean? So this one is for you, the gram. You know what I mean? Yeah. But what's the negative side about it?
So the negative side is because it's so small, there's a lot of jostling for position as well. Yeah. So there are limited opportunities, and I think people see that as we have to compete for them, which I don't see at all. I think there's space for us all, and we all have different things to bring to the table. And if someone else gets one opportunity, I know that I will get another, and one that's more suited to me. But the jostling for position has been quite hard. There's been a lot of bitching and just a general nastiness, but luckily it's confined to the minority, and it's
we're allowed to say
everyone.
That on Heart Doha.
Sorry,
it's okay.
Apologies for the swear word.
No, it's alright.
But the other side of it is also because it's not such a developed scene. There's There's a few people are still getting opportunities when they're not being completely honest.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of buying followers and buying likes and things, and people are still kind of that hasn't
people
been
need to be aware of that. Not everyone has real followers, by the way. So you need to understand that a lot of them just you need to understand that a lot of them actually do buy followers and likes. So you need to check the credibility of it.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I feel like sometimes you need to be a bit humble. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, you get like 10,000 followers and your nose is up in there. Like, calm down, all right?
Yeah.
So it's all about throwing out positive energy. It's all about trying to send in the idea or what you believe in on the screen. You know what I mean? Social media somehow is a bliss. Let's take it in a way that we can actually share positive energy in it, right? Especially what you're doing is because I love anyone that promotes the idea of positive energy. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on society nowadays, which adds up a lot of depression, especially to the youth, especially to women, especially to men. Every person that lives in, even cats for God's sake, you know what I mean? I've seen my cat, they're depressed. You know what I mean? Because there's so many options and you don't know what to feed them. Is it wet food? Is it dry food? I don't know what to feel. You know what I mean? I don't like that. But to find someone that sits out there and be like, no, this is okay. You can do this. This is better. Some sort of a guideline that tells you it's okay to mess up.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Life goes on. You need to, it's not the end of the world.
It doesn't have to be. I think there's always a choice in life, isn't there? There's two ways to look at everything. Life is made up of contradictions. For every evil act, there's a good act. For every negative feeling, there's a positive feeling, and it's your choice which way you go and how you kind of adjust your mindset to that. And I've just had to take a conscious decision to go that positive route because I wouldn't have survived otherwise with everything that's happened in the last 6 months. I just wouldn't have been able to pick myself back up. So I think I was kind of forced to do it in a way.
Yeah. Do you sometimes carry this kind of knowledge and the idea of raising a child? I feel like you're kind of like have it put together when you want to handle a kid. Do you have sometimes questions like, I don't know what to tell the kids. I don't know how to, give them guidelines in their life. Or you're like a complete super mom. It's okay. You can be honest. We're all about the honesty here.
We're all about the honesty. No, I'm definitely not a super mom, and I do have moments where I doubt everything, and I have no clue what I'm doing or what I need to tell her or how to guide her. I think the best thing that any mum can do personally is to
use Google.
No, that's the worst thing to do. The more you use Google, the more you freak out about
I love
things.
Google, man.
But everyone sensationalizes things on Google, so you can be in a thread on a mum's group, and suddenly the diaper rash that your kid has will turn into like the measles or something. They're dying of some disease, and then you only hear about the bad things. So don't use Google.
Yeah, don't use
as
Google.
A mum.
He's dying.
It really freaks you out.
I feel like there's one guy that works in Google sitting on desk and just shoving information about death. He's like, go ahead, Google your world. You know what I mean? But like, because sometimes I was thinking, I was like, how am I going to bring a child to this world?
Yeah.
I put my hands in my head and I'm like, how can I do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really big responsibility. It freaks me out.
It's the biggest. But if you're the best possible version of yourself that you can be, kids learn by imitation. So if you are, that you're genuinely good to people, you're genuinely kind, you're genuinely, all of these good things that your parents have instilled in you, then your child is going to turn out okay.
If you don't shoplift on a daily basis.
If you don't cuss like I did.
That's all right. Sometimes you can't, explain certain situations without cursing. We don't promote that on our Heart Doha.
We don't. My bad.
Yeah. We'll edit that later.
Please do.
Yeah. Well,
my mum will listen to this later
and
then
God,
she'll tell me off.
Well, thank God we're in the Middle East. Sometimes my dad would flick on the word and he wouldn't understand. He's like, I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? So, can you tell me more about what's your plans for future blogging scenes?
Yeah. So
what do you plan to go ahead with this?
I have quite big aspirations for my blog. So I'm not completely deluded. I don't think I'm going to ever be the biggest blogger in the world. I don't think I'm ever going to be, someone with hundreds of thousands of followers, like I said. But my ambition is basically to.
You got the quality for it. You're very bubbly out there on a real genuine basis.
That's very kind. That's a very nice thing to say.
People need this more often,
I think I think being genuine definitely does help, and it does come out in your writing.
Yeah, no need to fake it to make it, right?
Exactly. But I think what I would like to do is get to a point where I have a good following in Doha and I'm able to take my blog wherever we end up next, because we don't know what the future will hold. We're not going to be in Doha forever.
Yeah.
As much as we love it here and it really is home now, we will be moving on at some point, and I'd like to be able to take that and still have my Follow Your Sunshine brand, and it is growing a better global audience now. It's not just a Qatari audience that I have, so that's good. And then eventually I'd like to write a book, but that's a bit of a secret. You heard it here first, but
is it a novel?
I can't talk too much about it yet.
Oh God, we're gonna need to get more information out of you. You know what I mean? But how does it feel to be in Doha? Because I remember you just told me it feels very safe for the kids. And, how does that feel as a mother and a blogger?
Do you know what? It's brilliant. I would urge anyone, if anyone's on the edge about deciding whether to come out here as a location to raise a family, then I would say do it 100 times over. I'm so glad I made this decision. It's safe. There's surprisingly a lot to do for kids. Like a lot of people say it's quite a boring
for
place
kids,
to be, but for children, especially if you kind of find your own enjoyment in life, you look for things, you seek out opportunities, then there's loads to do. And that community feel that you get being an expat out here with other mums groups and supportive people that become your kind of makeshift family out here, that's something that you can't replicate, and it's been really important in my motherhood journey. Like I've got some great friends, and Sophia's got some great friends through that too, and it's lovely. It's really nice.
But it's quite different from the UK as growing as a child there, you know?
Very different. I think the one thing that we really do miss is the outdoor lifestyle that we have a bit more year-round in the UK. I know it gets really cold in the winter, but we do a lot of kind of walking, and both my parents and my husband's parents live in the countryside or very near to the countryside, so you know we do miss that green space. But you know, for all of those kind of things that you miss, you gain other things out here. So, and we head home a lot and travel a lot, obviously, as well. So we get that through our travels.
We got a lot of beaches over there.
Got a lot of beaches.
Yeah, you gotta love the beach.
My daughter does love the beach.
No farm tan though, you know. You gotta work on that farm tan. Before we end the show, I want to know: is there any positive messages would you like to give out to our Heart Doha listeners? What would you like to say?
Yeah,
if you
I suppose. Like my biggest message about positivity is it takes some effort, and it's not an easy thing. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a positive
and you
person
try to force it, right?
No, don't force it. Take it a step at a time. Like one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, because we've kind of run out of time, is the fact that not only did I have a miscarriage this year, but I also was diagnosed with cancer and have overcome cancer. So like that's been a really, really big thing, and the only way I've got through it is by...
Congratulations.
Thank you. Like it's been like the hardest but most kind of...
Do you mind if I ask what kind of cancer?
I had thyroid cancer, so I had...
What is that exactly?
So my thyroid's in my neck. That's why I'm wearing a scarf right now, because I've still got a big scar here.
Yeah.
So I had my whole thyroid gland removed.
Okay.
Which sits across the front of your neck here.
Was it here in Doha? You got
here in Doha, in Al Ali Hospital.
Okay.
So it... You know, not only had I lost a baby, been diagnosed with cancer, and then had to go through that massive trauma of what that meant to me, and have a big operation, but I basically was away from home as well without my support network around me. Yeah. And so I had to make that conscious decision to get up and be positive, and to do something positive with my life, and take the lessons out of this that I could take, and I just decided to take that road. And everyone can do that. I think looking outside of yourself and not wallowing in self-pity is like the biggest thing you can do. Making sure you look to other people, lean on them for support, but also do something positive as well that gives back to other people. That can really help. So writing my blogs really helped me, because I can give something back.
But like, how long? Like, what's the journey of you fight? Like, how long was it for you to fight cancer?
really, really quick, like
Yeah.
surprisingly quick. I'm still kind of reeling from it because it's been crazy. I was diagnosed at the beginning of Ramadan.
Yeah, this Ramadan.
This Ramadan. I had about 10 days where I was waiting to find out what they were going to do,
Yeah.
whether I needed to be operated on. They then decided that they would remove my thyroid. I went straight into hospital the next day after that 10-day wait. I had spent 5 days in hospital after they operated on me, and then I was sent home, and then it was another week and a bit, I think, until they told me I then had the all clear. They did some tests on my lymph nodes when they took my thyroid out to see if the cancer had spread through there, and they said that it hadn't, and that was it, and I was cancer free. So it was all within the space of a month, and I, it was a big shock, and I'm still in shock.
Yeah.
But I just had to get on. I think like having
Getting
my
the news
daughter-
at first would be a bit
Oh,
shocking, yeah?
Like I'm 32 years old. Like you just don't expect to get cancer at that age. But this is the message that I want everyone to take away from this.
Yeah.
You can get it whenever. Don't ever think that you have no chance and that you're completely free from risk, because none of us are these days. We're really not. And
Especially this lifestyle.
especially with this lifestyle, completely.
Yeah.
I just say to everyone, if you've got any chance for any blood tests or any full body scans or anything, just take them.
Yeah.
Most of us out here that are watching this probably have good health insurance,
Yeah.
and there are good health centres where you can go and get these full body checks.
Yeah.
So do it.
But sorry, we got about time, I believe. What were the symptoms of it?
That's the thing, I had no symptoms really
Zero
at
symptoms.
all. So I had hypothyroidism since my first pregnancy. That was when it was first detected, and I was on thyroxine tablets to kind of basically give me more of the stuff that my thyroid wasn't producing. And so I just thought it was a continuation of that. I was really lucky in that after my miscarriage, they gave me another blood test to check on that, and that's when they found a few
Symptoms.
results that weren't necessarily right. I then went to a specialist, and he found a lump in my neck, and then I had a scan and a biopsy, and that's when I was diagnosed. So, I might not have ever detected it if I didn't have the miscarriage, which is like really...
Sometimes God works in mysterious ways.
I believe so, and that's the way I look at it. I feel like this child was sent down to kind of save me in a way, which is like the nicest possible way to look at a really horrible situation.
It is. I mean, really touched by this.
Oh.
Honestly, because it's sometimes it has a deeper meaning to it. That's the negative things that happen in our life could actually be there to save us from something worse.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I was saying when I went into this, is there are two ways to look at everything, absolutely everything that happens in your life.
Yeah.
And if you always look for the positives, then you're going to be a happy person. There's no way you can't be. So.
Yeah. Thanks so much for such a great day.
Thank you.
For such a great chat. And we'll definitely be back again with you on another episode on Heart Doha Podcast. You gotta love the studio. Big shout outs to Trinity Qatar for being a part of this, giving us the amazing space. And also I want to thank the crew for doing every amazing job to make this happen. And also big shout outs to Ahmed, Kareem, and also Shad, and Ahmed also, and Trinity Qatar again. Thanks so much, Polly.
Thank you.
We'll definitely put your link on our page so people can check out your blog.
Great, thank you.
And we're can't wait to maybe have another show with you down the road.
I'll look forward to that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Until we meet again, this is Ahmed Shaheen signing out. Take care, though.